So hello guys, I am your host Bison. Here Kasparov starts the game with d4, knight to f6 by Karpov, then comes c4. This game was played in round 32 in the World Championship match held in year 1984. Here Karpov continued the game with e6. This is called Indian defense, and now Kasparov continued with knight to f3, which is called anti-Nimzo Indian. And after b6, this is the setup of Queen's Indian defense. Here Black is preparing to fianchetto his bishop on b7. Then Kasparov continues with his own variation, which is knight to c3, controlling the d5 and e4 square. Then Karpov develops his bishop on b7, as I mentioned earlier. Then comes a3, controlling the b4 square, stopping Black's normal plan of pinning the c3 knight by bishop to b4. This is called Kasparov-Petrosian variation. Here, Karpov strikes towards the center with d5. Then Kasparov takes on d5, and after knight takes d5, then he develops his queen on c2, supporting the knight, and Karpov develops his another knight to d7. And after this, he captured the knight, and after e takes d5, then he placed his bishop on g5, targeting the queen. Then he defends the queen by playing f6, attacking the bishop, but slight inaccurate because this weakens the king side. Here Kasparov slides back his bishop to f4, targeting the c7 pawn. Karpov simply pushed his pawn to c5, which attacks the white pawn. But Kasparov played g3, opening the g2 and g3 square for the bishop. After this, g6 by Karpov, he is also preparing to develop his bishop on g7. Then Kasparov explodes towards the king side by playing h4, and here Karpov develops his queen to e7, keeping eye on the 7th rank so that white can't infiltrate. Bishop to g2, bishop to g7, and clearly you can see that both sides have completed the development of their pieces. And after this, Kasparov played h5, and clearly Black can't capture the h-pawn, otherwise this weakens the black pawn structure. Suppose if he takes on h5, then in the next move knight will jump on the h4 square, and clearly the next destination will be knight to f5, which hits the queen as well as the bishop, and clearly you can see that white will be better. After the move h5, here Karpov continued with f5, but here it's better for Black to simply push the g pawn forward, which will attack the bishop. And after this move, queen to d2 by Kasparov, defending the d4 pawn as well as keeping eye on the dark square bishop. Then comes bishop to f6, stopping the move bishop g5. But after this, Kasparov played a beautiful move, which is rook to c1, adding one more piece into the game, which will help in the middle game like rook to c3. And after this, Karpov also brings his a rook into the game. And then comes rook to c3. Clearly, the intentions of white is to play rook to e3 next, which pins the queen. And after this, Karpov also mirrors with the rook to c6, adding defense on the e6 square if rook comes. After this, rook to e3 as he planned, attacking the queen, but Karpov simply unpins it by placing his rook on e6. After this, he exchanged the rook, and then he brings his knight to g5, which is attacking the queen. Queen simply moves on e7, and then Kasparov takes on c5, and he takes on g6 next. And here Black can't capture the g pawn, suppose if h takes g6, because then white will exchange the rook first, and then he captured the d5 pawn. And after bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, you can see that white pieces are more active like the bishop and the knight, and the active queen, which will slaughter the Black king in the next few moves. And if Black tries to grab the b2 pawn, then white will play the following moves, which is queen to c6 check, queen to d7, queen takes d6 check, king to d8, knight to f7 check, king to c8, knight to d6 check, king to d8, queen g8 check, and after king to c7, you can see that black king is completely gone. Here after the move, yeah, from this position, Karpov played d4, asking for the bishop exchange, but here Kasparov, instead of exchanging the bishop, which is the right idea, he blundered and played g7. Here it threatens the rook to capture, but here Kasparov gives a free pawn to black. And after this, Kasparov exchanged the bishops and he played f3, defending the rook. And then Karpov brings his queen towards the center. Maybe he wants to play queen to e2 next. Here, infiltrating towards the white position. But after this, Kasparov takes on h7, and after rook takes h7, knight takes h7, queen to b3. Here Karpov is threatening to play d3, which opens the diagonal for the dark square bishop. But Kasparov, as a gangster, he played bishop to d6, and his intentions are clear. He wants to play queen to g5, creating the checkmate threat as well as attacking the bishop. Hence, after seeing this, Karpov placed his knight on e6, stopping the move queen g5. But after this, Kasparov played knight to g5, asking for knight exchange. But here, Karpov defends this position beautifully. He placed his bishop to h6, pinning the knight. And Kasparov unpins the knight by playing bishop to f4. And then Karpov exchanged the knight with the bishop. After this, he grabs the bishop with the knight, and Karpov grabbed the a2 pawn, the pawn on b2. Okay. Then after this, Kasparov also captured on f5. Then Karpov gives a check on c1 square, king to f2, queen to e3 check, king to f1, and then he gives the check again from the c1 square, and after king to g2, finally he grabs the a3 pawn. But after this, Kasparov gives the check from the h5 square, and then he placed his king to d7. But guys, this move is a mistake. The better move for black is to keep his king towards the right side of this e-file, because this will help black to stop these strong pawn chains of white to promote. But after this move, Kasparov gives the another check from the g4 square, and again he mistakes, because here better move for black is to keep the king towards the 8th rank. But now it's too late, because after this, Kasparov captured on d4. Here, Karpov tries to promote his pawn by playing b5, hoping that he can promote, but this is of no use, because Kasparov simply played g4. Okay, b4, he tries to promote his pawn, but then comes g5, and after this position, Karpov resigned, because suppose if black tries to promote his b pawn by playing b3, then white will simply play queen to e4 check, and king to d6, then queen to g6 check, and if king to c5, queen to e6, threatening to give a check from the e7 square, and and black has to lose his queen. Hence, after seeing this, if black plays queen to b4, then again queen to e3 check, if king to c4, queen to d3 check, king to c5, g6, b2, and queen to f5. And after king to d4, you can see that this t1 square is defended by the queen, and white will promote his g-pawn without any problem. What an amazing game by the god of chess, Garry Kasparov. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. Hit that subscribe button for more. I am your host Bison, signing off. Bye bye.